similar to like a managerial setting where you want to create an atmosphere where everyone has a right to say something, but also want to be valued as a leader and people to like not run over you?
You know, it's a fantastic question. I think it goes back to what Erica talked about with good ego versus bad ego, and sort of stepping back and being willing to hear criticism and listen, but knowing that the buck stops with him. So he has to be comfortable and non-egotistical or egoless, whatever the correct term is, to listen and to hear criticism and analyze it as an objective, suggestion. And ultimately he has to decide whether or not it lines up with his leadership philosophy or not. And I think that definitely translates into business. I mean, CEOs surround themselves with smart people, ideally smarter than them, but ultimately they have to make the decision. So.
If you establish yourself as a leader, then the people under you will not question that you are making the best decision for the team. But if you suggest something to them that they haven't thought of, that's where that democratic process comes in, and that you're accepting that they might also have an idea, but ultimately you are still the decider.
So, again, this is for anybody. Were there any methodologies of Walsh's that didn't necessarily resonate with you in business and life?
Question.
I think the scope of this case was fairly limited.
Okay.
So it really just highlighted the beneficial attributes of his leadership style. So personally, I didn't have anything.
You're not 49ers.
Yeah. 49ers are terrible.
I do think there's something to be said about cutting loose individuals' assets, if it's in the business world, the football world, cutting loose something that is having a negative effect on your team. He probably would have invested a little bit too much.
Okay.
And oftentimes, like you saw with the individual nicknamed Hollywood, sometimes that investment doesn't work out.
Right.
So, but he had a big heart for a football, head coach.
Cool. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I've got one, I guess. How much of this 49ers success was Bill Walsh's philosophy, and how much was Eddie DeBartolo's mafia money buying all the best players?
You can buy the best players in the world, but if you can't lead them, you're nowhere.
I'm just kidding, sorry. So I think the earlier question about the difference between ego and like confidence, that seems profoundly important. And I guess we get that right. It's hard to get that right, I guess. I don't even know what the distinction is. I guess when we were doing ours, it was false pride or something but then you're never receptive. It's you're defensive to feedback. You don't want to hear, contrasting opinions. And
it takes a profound self-awareness, you know what I mean? To be able to sort of look at yourself and examine whether you're being egotistical or just, it's difficult.
It's so bizarre how the ego, this caring about the self, gets in the way of yourself or something like that.
But I mean, he took a team that was last in the NFL and over a 10-year stint won twice as many games as he lost. Which, if you know in football, you're whatever 8-7 back then. There was only I think 16 games, and you make the playoffs. But he won. I think it was whatever his record was. It was 150 or whatever it was.
90.
Yeah, 92 and 59. It's incredibly, especially coming into a team that was in last place for the first 2 years. So.
What do you guys think about his philosophy on spending his time, where he'd say, this percent, there's 100% of people in the middle 80, the top 10, the bottom 10. You guys touching that at all in the article?
I remember reading it. I guess we didn't focus on it. It's interesting because the traditional philosophy would be you spend your time on the players that are going to do best for you, do most for you, and so But he felt that he could trust guys like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and Ronnie Law to to not necessarily need as much time as the guys in the middle who needed development and had all this potential. So it's interesting, and that's definitely something that could be translated into business. I feel like,
If you guys read the article, it talks about, it's going to say what he would do is say, your top 10%, they're gonna be great without you, doesn't matter.
Right.
Leave them alone.
Yeah.
The bottom 10%, nothing you can do can
Yeah.
possibly help them.
Yeah.
Cut them loose. Don't spend any time with them.
Right.
That middle is where you need to spend your time. And that was a cool
And that's
thing.
where I was touching on your question, is
Right.
that 10%, you know, maybe he held on a little too long with that.
Right.
So,
I think you can apply that to business too.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought this slide back up. The winning percentage 609, that's not super high. Like it's above average, but not amazing. And I don't know where that stands relative to other tenured coaches. So would you say that his most important legacy on the game is how good of a coach he was from a win-loss perspective, or is it more circling back to that coaching tree that you presented at the end? Which one how do you read that?
Well, we're studying his leadership style in a business course.
Sure.
I think it goes back to his management and leadership style more than his winning percentages.
I would agree. And plus, you know, he took over, like I said, the last place team. So from 77, 78 to
Mhm.
81, I think he won like 16 games in
Right.
4 seasons or
So
whatever it
it
was.
was negatively.
Right. And then
Yeah.
once he hit the
It's the
first
three
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowls there that.
Right. And then-
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting
And then
this.
the
Yeah,
playoffs in
but I
between
just
those
saw that
guys.
winning percent. I was like, that's actually
Right.
pretty low.
But like I mentioned in football, you know, there's equity. So
Sure,
you
sure,
know,
sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
He want to lop off his inherited people.
Right.
Like when you look at Wooden's stuff, before he changed his mindset, like
Right.
that stuff not that great. But the last,
That's true. That's true.
it's like a 90% win ratio at the end when he
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
got it right. So what is his win ratio once,
True. Once he was actually
flush the pipes out?
going on all
Yeah,
cylinders.
yeah. Good job, guys.
Great job.